Hey, welcome to the Straight Sports Podcast. We're with Joshua and
Tashar.
in this podcast we give our opinions on our favorite sports, which are basketball, soccer, and wrestling.
Well, before I start, Josh, please begin. We are literally recording, I would say, probably about 2 hours after the big
Yep,
day, the NBA draft. So the
the
floor is
big
yours.
day. You know, I called it from the jump. I knew Victor would be a Spur.
Remember,
You
this
know,
is
the
the
script
same
was
guy.
written,
My
man.
bad for cutting your moment. Remember, this is the same guy who said San Antonio gets an effort to trading Dante Murray. Just remember, it's the same guy. But I'm not going to
That
cut this
was in
off
the
because this
moment,
is
man.
his moment. So I'm going to let him have it. Go ahead.
I did give it an F, but now that I see, the light, I seen what happened. Maybe we did win the trade. We tanked for Victor, got Victor, and it's just a great day for San Antonio fans. So shout out San Antonio, shout out Victor, shout out Popovich, shout out the rest of the young core. And we're coming, bro. San Antonio is officially back. And yeah, just a great day, man. Great day, man.
Beautiful. Victor is in San Antonio. I'm coming home. San Antonio, welcome me back.
Nah, you're not welcome, bro. You ain't
But
welcome, my guy.
regardless, I'm happy, for you, obviously, and for your franchise, your team that you grew up idolizing and supporting your whole life. This is a guy who this is the perfect situation for him, getting coached by an elite like Pop. There's
Mm-hmm.
been centers number one picks drafted. We got David Robinson. We see the resume. Tim Duncan. See the resume. Victor's now on the list. It looks like could have that kind of potential. Obviously Tony Parker. I think Victor played for a team in France with
Yeah, he
Tony
did.
Parker. You have Pop, the greatest coach, arguably of all time, in a lot of people's opinion. Um, you have a very classy organization, well run, great culture building. So this is the perfect organization. I thought about all the teams he could potentially land into. Obviously, I was surprised with Detroit. They fell a little lower than I thought.
Yeah, way
Dallas
lower.
robbed the Knicks. They don't deserve that 10th pick, but tanking is tanking. They're still salty about the Brunson thing. Guess you should have paid him. But regardless, I was surprised. I was surprised Houston got first. I really did think Detroit, Houston, San Antonio would be the top three. Obviously they had the best projections, but I
Yeah.
was surprised with that. I was surprised Charlotte got up all the way to 2 and Portland got up all the way to 3. But sometimes the draft stuns you. There's a little bit of bad luck with some franchises. I remember the Knicks had Zion 1 year. They had the best odds, and Pelicans ended up getting the
Yeah.
number one pick, and they did not have the best odds. So draft is crazy. I am very happy San Antonio. One of the three teams that had the best odds. One of those three did win it. So happy for their franchise. They definitely deserve it. They've had a lot of dark days, obviously with Kawhi, kind of requesting the trade, forcing his way out of San
Yep.
Antonio. Because he didn't want to be there. We know he wanted to be in LA. That was ultimately probably why he left. Um, or whatever with the injury situation, unfortunately, that took occur. We don't really know the full details of that. But regardless, this is a good day for San Antonio. Good day for their fans after a couple of years. No playoffs, all this. There's a generational talent coming, a guy who is he compared to the shooting of Kristaps, the defense of Rudy, and the what's the other thing that they compared him to? I believe 3 different players he's been compared to. Was it a little bit of KD too? He got compared
Yeah, it
to.
probably was some KD,
I mean,
to
it's
be honest.
just what he is. I mean, he's a special player.
What a day, man.
It's a generational talent. I'm very happy to see how he develops in San Antonio. He's the perfect team, and you see his reaction after he was like, "Yes," like you can see him very happy with where he's expected to end up, which is in San Antonio. So I'm very happy for your organization. This is your moment. I know I clowned this franchise, but now if you think about it, I don't know if the trade with Atlanta was really for any picks in a particular way. I don't think it was like picks meaning for this year's pick. I think the Spurs own this one. We look at Atlanta, who just lost in the first round. If something happened next year and they decided to blow it up, I'm not saying they are, but there've been conversations about Trae Young.
Yeah,
Then they're potentially rebuilding. Then what is those happens to those 4 first round picks that they got? That means the Spurs are going to
that's
get some
true.
more
Yeah.
top prospects. This was a win-win trade from the jump. Now that they got Victor, it's all falling in place. DeJounte Murray's over there, and look, they literally lost in the first round, same place that they lost last season. Obviously, they got some; those are good players, but we'll see what happens. But Congratulations. Anything else you want to say before we obviously move on to talk about the second rounds?
Go Spurs, go, man. That's all I can say right
Ah,
now.
ah.
Shout out Atlanta too, bro. Thanks
Oh
for that,
man.
man.
Let's start off with topic number one. The second round of the NBA playoffs has come to an end, and we will go through each NBA second round series and give our reactions to it. So, the fifth seed New York Knicks versus the eighth seed Miami Heat. The Miami Heat won the series 4-2. So, what are your reactions?
Obviously, a bit surprised. I did pick the Knicks, to win the series.
You cursed them.
Did hear that, I was a curse, but you know that's tough, man. I mean, the Heat, they were down a player. I believe Harold didn't play as well. He was hurt, but I just expected with the talent the Knicks have, you know, led by Brunson, followed up by Randall, who we'll get to. I just feel like they had enough to edge the Heat, but it turns out when it came down to it, they couldn't, and Miami took the series. I mean, shout out Jimmy Butler, shout out Kyle Lowry, some solid minutes from him, respect. Bam Adebayo as well, played decent. Jalen Brunson, I mean, what more could he do, man? He played great, led the team, tried to, get his teammates going, but ultimately it just didn't work. RJ Barrett had a solid series as well. Randall, I mean, I thought Randall was almost horrendous this series. I mean, like what can you say? Like very inefficient, still chucking up threes. He's not the greatest shooter. Really, I don't know what he's even doing. His body language looked horrible. Post game interview looked like he didn't even want to be there. I mean, it's just something maybe some Knicks fans can speak on that, but to me, it looks like he's not really into it. I don't know if he wants to be there. And I'm saying if I'm the Knicks, I'm trading Randall. I mean, that was a horrible showing from him. He was your all star. He's supposed to be leading the team, but clearly Brunson does that best. And I feel like if the Knicks want to go forward, they might have to let him go because Brunson's stepping up. Randall, I feel like he's holding him back. So, what's your take on it?
Well, first, obviously, my greatest take, which was the New York Knicks this season, has come to an end. Unfortunately, they didn't make it to the conference finals. Obviously, disappointed. I wanted to see the Knicks in the conference finals with Milwaukee being out. It felt like the opportunity opened up, but again, it's just the underestimation of the Miami Heat. Underestimated them a lot. Everybody did. Nobody really seen this coming, and they proved us wrong again. I always say it's a Spo thing. He's a generational coach. He always finds a way to get the most out of the players, even though he's missing a couple of guys. And Jimmy Butler's just who he is. And this is just a team that, when it comes to the postseason, they're a team that you don't want to face, and they continue to prove that. As an eight seed, they're in the conference finals. Um, so we got to give credit to the Miami Heat, for finding a way to win this series. It was 4-2. It's definitely a decent series. If you look at, like I said, game, I think it was the first game. Uh, the first game, I think the Heat won, and then game two with no Jimmy Butler, that was a game that I felt like the Knicks got fortunate to win. It was a very close game, but they ended up winning the game. But then they elevate to Miami. They lose those both two games. They win game five at home, and then game six, they ultimately could have won. Jalen Brunson showed up, and nobody else showed up. I heard the stat. He had 14 field goal. The rest of the team had 13. I mean, he did everything in his power to bring them back. You argue two more threes from Julius Randle, they win the game. As simple as that. He did everything in his power, but his teammates just didn't. Nobody showed up besides him really that day. Um, but what Jalen Brunson showed is that everybody was wrong about him. This is a guy that he's legit. That guy, he literally what he averaged in this series, if I'm correct. I mean, he averaged 31 points, phenomenal. Then game six, 41. I mean, game five, 38. Game four, 32. Game three, you could argue, was arguably his best worst game. 7 for 20, 20 points. Still, had 8 assists. I mean, game two, 30. Game one, 25. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal in this series, shooting 50% from the field, 34% from three. I mean, there's nothing you can ask about how great he was in this series, and really showed that he was a snub all star. You could argue he was a snub all NBA team, because the way he was playing is special. He was just special this series. When it comes to Randall, man, the only thing I'll say is I think Knicks fan will still, when it comes to what he did for this franchise, his second year there, got him to the playoffs, was a big part of it, was special. But sometimes when it comes to the playoffs, it just doesn't. This is his second playoff series, and just feels like he hasn't had a dominant stretch. But like if you look at it, He missed the first game. Game 2, he had 25. I mean, not terrible. 8 for 18, not terrible. 3 for 9 from 3, not terrible. Just he shoots high volume threes. I mean, game
Yeah,
3, I mean, 4 for 15, 0 for 5 from
like that's
3.
crazy, man.
That was game 4, 8 for 13. That's efficient. 20 points, not terrible. Game 5, 24 points. That's pretty decent. 7 for 13. He had a couple efficient games. Game 6 was the worst, 3 for 14. I mean, 11 rebounds, not bad. So I don't think it's like there was some games in this game. I don't think we could say that he played horrendous or anything. There was a couple of games I think he played decent, but it just feels like between the regular season, how it feels like how dominant he could be having those 50-point games just hasn't really feel like that dominance has carried to the playoffs. And his body language just feels like it's so bad, just like he misses a shot, he just shrugs and just gets upset. He starts complaining a lot to the refs, just bad body language. I think, if you're one of those guys, you gotta set the example for the team. It just
Yeah,
felt like, oh, he set this past to Mitchell Robinson, and it slipped out of Mitchell Robinson's hand. He lost, and then his body language was like, oh, like so bad. So you gotta always encourage your teammates. I just didn't like his body language. And when it comes to the Knicks, obviously 2 out of 3 years, and Randall was phenomenal regular season, had a huge part of them being in the playoffs, especially that second year with them. Obviously, this season, the addition of Brunson, I think, really allowed them to get back to the point they were with him and Randall really stepping up. But when it comes to playoffs, it has not really correlated. And I think this offseason with the Knicks, with all these picks they got, something I think you look at, you definitely keep, Brunson. Josh Hartman was a great addition. RJ Barrett, he struggled in that last game, but after game 2 against Cleveland, he really stepped up in the playoffs. So I really like that. I like their young pieces. Quickly, unfortunately, that he missed the last couple of games. Toppin, they got some good depth, but definitely I agree with you. Something potentially explore with Randall. At least look at
yeah,
the market. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but the body language, all this is just something that he has to be better at. And it's excusable how you plays. Even if you play bad, you have to have better body language and be a better leader. Brunson is there because he's the leader, but I think it's something you definitely look at being traded because I know Knicks fans are not happy. I mean, I already see the video. Knicks fans, there was they have like a poster of Randall in the Garden. They took it down and started stomping on it. Knicks
yeah. I
fans
seen that. It
are
was crazy.
Knicks fans are
That's tough,
something
man.
different. They're built different. So it's they definitely have to look into trading him, for sure. I think it's something you got to look into, but definitely keep Brunson. And, one thing I'll say is the Knicks had a successful season. Unfortunately, a lot of people thought they should be in the conference finals, but they had a successful season. To all the Knicks fans out there, especially my son Danny, uh, you know, congrats on a great season. You guys deserve, in the enjoyment that you have for this season. It was a fun season for them. I think one day we'll probably not forget in a long time. And to Brunson, you got to say thank you to him, for giving the Knicks fans, a lot of happiness he brought back to the Garden. So I'm excited to see what they do next season. I know they're gonna get better because they got a lot of depth, got a lot of pieces, a lot of picks. It could be a big move this offseason coming to the Garden. Because we know Knicks over Nets all day.
Funny,
Okay.
man.
So let's move on to the next series. The second seeded Boston Celtics versus the third seeded 76ers. The Boston Celtics won the series 4-3. Before we get on to the next series, I just want to say this is very surprising. Joshua went 0-4 in second round predictions. Tough day for him. But
It
Wemby did get
happens,
drafted
man.
to San Antonio, so all is well. So let's move on. The second seeded Boston Celtics versus the third seeded 76ers. The Boston Celtics won this series 4-3. So what are your reactions to this series?
Obviously, I did pick the 76ers. I was very high on this team. And, Harden and Embiid just didn't show up when it mattered the most. Obviously, if you look through the numbers, Embiid did not play game 1. Harden with an amazing performance, which I thought, could set the tone for the rest of the series. We dropped 45, had a big game, led the team to the win. Embiid comes back next game, drops 15. Harden drops 12. They lose. Um, Next big game for Harden comes out 42 points in that game 4 with a win in OT. And what he does, and he follows it up with what? 17. And I feel like that's when he started sliding back. I mean, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, this was a disgusting performance from Harden, especially in the game seven. I mean, you're an all-star talent. Embiid is an MVP talent, and you two couldn't even combine for 30 points. Harden, like it's actually disgusting. Only 3 field goals made in game seven, combined with 5 turnovers. You had 9 points. Embiid, the MVP, 15 points, 5 for 18 shooting. And then he comes out and has the nerve to say that it's him and Harden and that the rest of the players, I believe, need to play better. I'm not sure what the exact quote was. It's actually disgusting.
Just to let Mr. Joel Embiid, the MVP, Tobias Harris and Maxey both had more points than
Facts.
him and Harden. So the others showed up. Maybe the superstars need to do their job.
They do. Clear as day. And then he's also saying, we. Last time I checked, you're the MVP. You need to step up. You played horrible. Your role players stepped up.
If my MVP in a game seven goes, you say he had 15, right?
Yeah,
He had 15, and my second best player had 9 points. I'd be lucky to even have the game close.
exactly. Disgusting, man. Like, honestly, it's actually disgusting. Like, I just don't understand, bro. And guess what? Can't blame Ben this year. Ben wasn't here this time. So what's the excuse?
Please, let's not talk about irrelevant people. We're talking about this, somebody who's a role player now. Let's not bring up bums.
As a role player, actually embarrassing. Like, this is actually so
Ben
sad
Simmons,
to
I'm weak
see.
though. He posted a thing on Instagram showing like he
Mhm.
watching a Sixers game. Like, okay,
That's tough.
buddy, okay, nice. You're watching a Sixers game. Just remember that they're bet that if you were there, they would have got swept. Harden won them 2 games.
I'm weak.
Harden and Ben Simmons ain't dropping no 42 or 45. Only Harden's capable of doing that.
And just to keep going, I mean, this just shows like the level of this team. Like, they have a great team. They had a good coach. They have a solid squad from top to bottom, from one to the last spot on the bench. It's a solid team. And what happens? Capitulation. The team goes as your stars go. The MVP level of Joel Embiid, I might even say as far as he should have mailed back in his MVP tonight. That was
It's a
a
regular season
literal
award. Let's just keep it
disgusting
real.
performance. You're the best player in the league, allegedly according to the MVP, right? You go to the post game saying we need to improve. Where's the accountability?
All I
Where's the
know is if this
accountability?
was Nikola Jokic, the media's all after him.
Exactly. You're the leader of this team. You're the best player. You're supposed to take
Also,
blame for
that debate is
yourself.
over, by the way. Joker and Embiid, that debate
100%
is
is. It's
over.
it's over. It's done. And it's not even like he can
If
make a
it was
case.
a debate, because we both had Joker as the best.
True. But to me, that post game interview sealed the deal for me. And there was
Bro
even
was
a clip I
laughing at
seen.
the end
Yeah,
too.
bro was
It's like
laughing,
like you just
giggling,
got whooped and you're laughing.
got
Like it's not
cooked. He's
serious.
laughing, even cracked a joke referencing Giannis saying there's steps to success. You look like a clown, bro. You got cooked in game seven. You're laughing with the reporters as if you didn't just get bopped off the court. That's embarrassing. And you basically were a no-show. I mean, I'm sorry, man. Harden disgusted like I said it, bro. I mean, I got nothing to say, man. I mean, I stuck up for him for so long, but at some point, like they say, bro, when somebody shows you who they are, you gotta believe them, bro. And I might have to believe that Harden, he might not be that guy when it comes to these moments, man. Game seven, horrible performance. What's your take on it, man? I'm done.
Well, first, you remember you got Wemby. Don't need to get too upset here. But when I looked at this series, obviously, I told you I felt like Boston was the better team, and then for them potentially to win this series, Harden had to go berserk. Game one, Harden goes berserk. They win. Obviously, no Embiid. It looked like they set the tone for the series, like you said. Game two and game three, they lost. Game four, Harden has to go berserk, and we talk about the moments. He was clutch in game four. I mean, down the stretch to hit a big 2 pointer. They win by to tie the game to go to OT, and then the big three to seal the deal and help them win the game. So he had clutch performances, especially in game four. That ultimately, had he not had that, the series would have been over far before that. But he helped to tie the series 2-2. Game five, he didn't have to have a dominance performance. 17-10, I'm fine with it. He knows, he picks and chooses, and he knows, what's really, he's a very smart guy when it comes to his IQ. He saw Maxi at 30, and Embiid had like 30 plus. I think that was Embiid's best game in the series. He didn't have to dominate because Maxey was doing his thing and then Embiid was doing his thing. So and they blew them out. That's fine. Game 6 and 7, obviously, that's where you look at the disappointment. Closeout games are always the hardest. Your stars have to close out, those games. And if you look at the closeout game, let's see. Yeah, 13 points, 4 for 16 shooting, 0 for 6 from three. He did have 9 assists. We know his playmaking is on another level.
Yeah.
That's on game 6. Game 7, 9 points. So, closeout games, like I said, are very hard, and your stars have to show up in those games. And let's bring up Embiid. Like I said, game 5, he dropped 33. Game 4, he had 34. Not too bad. That's actually pretty decent, I would say. He took obviously 26 shots, but look at game 6 and game 7, 9 for 19, right? 26 points, not terrible, but not very efficient. And then obviously game 7, 15, 5 for 17 shooting, 27.8% from the field, 0 for 4 from the three. So obviously very terrible game. So yeah, when you look at this series, I did say Boston was a better team. If it wasn't for Harden, probably Boston would have swept them, but Harden's greatness allowed this series to extend. He had a phenomenal 2 games. Only problem is Harden had 2 phenomenal games and 5 other subpar games. I think game 7, game 6 were absolutely terrible games by James Harden. The rest of them were not too bad. I thought game 5 he did good because they won the game and he was aggressive in the beginning. Then towards and then in the first quarter after that he was more passive. He was just finding his guys because Maxey had it going. Harden's a smart guy. He got great IQ. But yeah, to close out the series, he was no good. Embiid was no good. And regardless, no matter what you could say about Doc choking these series leads or whatnot, if your superstars don't show up in a closeout game or a game 7, and they play like that, like the stats I just read, you have no
Yeah.
chance of winning the game. And again, for Embiid to say, you know, like you said, he was laughing in the press conference. That's very unprofessional. You just got spanked. You just lost a game 7, and this is something that's a laughing matter. This is a franchise, and there's a fan base who is desperately waiting to at least get to the conference finals. They have not been able to do that in the Ben or Joel era. Now with the James Harden and Joel era, the coaches have been changing, and the results have not been changing. And when it comes to the Celtics, obviously, they were down 3-2. They responded. And they won that series. And Jason Tatum was absolutely spectacular in Game 7. He was getting a lot of hate. There was a lot of comparison about him and Brown. Tatum was spectacular. They're moving on now. And Philadelphia should regret Game 6 for the rest of their life. They had the series in the bag. They were up 2
Yep.
points in the fourth quarter. Jason Tatum had the worst game of his life until like the last 5 minutes. It was a game they had
That's crazy, man.
written to win, and they lost it. So all I can say is this is unfortunate. I don't know what's going to happen. We already know what we're about to talk about, the big Doc Rivers news. But regardless, obviously, I was a person. I'm a fan of James Harden. He's one of my top 5 favorite players. I obviously wanted to see Philly, a new team in the finals. We've seen Boston represent, since LeBron left. We've seen Boston, we've seen Miami, we've seen Milwaukee. Looked like it was Philly's turn to represent the East, and they weren't able to do it. So another second round exit for the Philadelphia 76ers. Some comes with choking, and some comes with just the superstar Joel Embiid just not being able to stay healthy. We want him to be healthy, but unfortunately, it's been every year. The year with when Ben Simmons were at the Atlanta series, the number 1 seed, he was playing hurt. Then the next season with Miami, he missed the first 2 games, and then this season he missed 1 game, and he was also wearing a knee brace. He was playing hurt. What can we say? That's all we can say. It was still a thriller series. It goes 7 games. It was a very good series, but a game 7 was an absolute beatdown. And James Harden was phenomenal for 2 games. Unfortunately, he didn't play good for the rest of the majority of the series he played. I still think he played good in game 5. And then the closeout game, both top guys did not play good. And I'm gonna finish off with this: if your stars don't show up in the biggest game, you're not winning. The stars didn't just show up; they were absolutely terrible. It's like we didn't
Yep.
see anybody on the damn court.
Put him on a mo card, bro.
And unfortunately, Joel Embiid said that, like you said, him and Harden were they need more help. You had help. The depth is good. There's no excuses. Stop blaming the others. The one thing that gets me sick. I feel like Joel Embiid takes no accountability. He
Yeah.
just talks and he'll blame somebody like last season. Oh, he's not Houston Harden anymore. Just blaming everybody else except himself. When you're the MVP, when you're the superstar, you have to take majority of the blame.
Agreed.
Kevin Durant takes majority of blame. Any top guy takes majority of blame. Harden gets some blame too, for sure. But Embiid gets majority of the blame, for sure, with Harden. And I just don't like the fact that he never takes accountability. And also, again, blaming your teammates. Daryl Morey, the front office did a phenomenal job. You got Tyrese Maxey, PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris. That's a good
Yep.
starting five with him and Joel Embiid. Then you have off the bench Melton, and you have Jaden McDaniel. Was it Jaden or one of the McDaniel brothers? I think, right? Because there's two.
Yeah.
One of the McDaniels ones. I don't know if
Mhm.
they're brothers actually, but one of them. They got him in a trade, really good. Um, they got. I don't think he played that much in this series though. They also got. I know they have Melton. I'm trying to. I definitely missing some names here. Paul
Um.
Reed,
Yeah, Paul Reed, Niang. I mean, I don't know.
Niang. Yes, so the depth was improved this offseason. I think they did. The front office did their job. Bottom line is, the team was good. They had enough to win a championship. Stars didn't show up, and that's ultimately what it is. They were up 3-2. Stars got to finish it off. They didn't, and now they're going home in their second round again. And it is what it is there. So, what are your reactions to Doc being fired? Was he scapegoated?
Doc being fired, I mean, expected. I mean, we see how coaches are being treated nowadays. I mean, you've seen coaches fired for less. I
Mhm.
mean, we see Monty Williams, which we'll probably talk about later, get to the finals, second round, then second round again, fired. Budenholzer, championship, second round, first round, fired. I mean, Doc had no chance. I mean, we seen it coming. He's a great regular season coach. I'll give him that. But as of late, from what I've seen the postseason, I mean, some questions have to be asked. I mean, his adjustments, and obviously, yes, he's getting scapegoated for the performance, but that doesn't mean he takes no fault from this. Like I seen the Celtics, they made a lineup change in Game 6. Doc Rivers, no response. But with that being said, obviously, we can talk about the hypotheticals with Doc Rivers if he did this, if he does that. The bottom line is, if Embiid and Harden show up, they win the series. So I'm gonna say yes, he's being scapegoated. He did have some faults, but at the end of the day, this loss isn't really on him. He clearly had the game plan at work. The rest of the role players showed up. Your star players didn't. So I say yes. In this instance, Doc Rivers is being scapegoated. I don't think he deserves to be fired.
I think we both agreed. I'm not sure if we both, but I have Philadelphia as in the most pressure to win a championship this season after with the Clippers at number 2. Philadelphia was number 1 on the list. That franchise, he had a lot of pressure. It felt like
Yeah.
if they didn't get to the conference round, he was going to get fired, and that's exactly what happened. And the fact that they got beat down in Game 7 did not make it any better. Yeah, so I think he got fired. I heard Embiid. I don't know if he really wanted to get fired. I think I heard Stephen A. Smith said that he's upset. But when they asked James Harden after the press conference, they asked him because first James Harden, when he got traded to Philly, got him let's just say found his way back, traded to Philly after he got out of Brooklyn. He said the big reason I also came here was to be coached by Doc. Okay,
Yep.
it was always rumbles about Mike D'Antoni, even after that season. he Then they asked him after the game, what's kind of like your relationship with Doc? How has it evolved and stuff? I think that's what they said. And then this is the part I
Yeah.
do remember. They asked him, "Do you want Doc back next season?" All he answered, "Our relationship is okay." He didn't respond to the other part.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
In my opinion, it was very clear one thing that if James Harden, because now it feels like there's actually a chance he might not return this season. If James Harden was going to come back, Doc had to be fired. And that's probably what the organization has
Interesting.
already decided to do. I don't think James wanted Doc there. It's very clear. It is very, very clear Mike D'Antoni is going to be the coach next season. It's very evident.
I mean, they're gonna interview some other coaches, man.
When I saw Woj put out the tweet all these coaches are being interviewed with Mike D'Antoni's name, this is just the names that are on the list is just
So they don't
a
get
due
fined with that thing.
diligence. A due diligence. Just have to do it. Mike D'Antoni's already the coach. It's already set. I guarantee you he's the coach because if Mike D'Antoni's hired, we know James Harden is signing. Daryl Morey is James Harden's guy. He's gonna listen to James Harden. They've had a lot of success in Houston. They were one game away
True.
from the finals. Had Chris Paul not got hurt, and potentially they could have won the championship. So Mike D'Antoni is his guy. In my opinion, it's already a done deal. Mike D'Antoni is the coach, in my opinion, of the Philadelphia 76ers. In my opinion, James Harden didn't want to be coached by Doc anymore. That is very evident with the press conference that he had.
Yeah, but
He didn't
Embiid did
defend
though.
him. He didn't say anything. Embiid said, "I love
Yeah, that's the
working with
thing.
Doc." He defended him. So it's very interesting. It's like, is the organization capitulating to James Harden, or
I
is it
think they
this
might be.
Embiid's team? This might not be a good look long term wise because Embiid's like, I'm the best player. This is my team. That's not a good
Yeah.
look. And they said potentially he was upset with the Doc firing. So I'm very, very confused with all this. But regardless, they ultimately feels like if James was going to resign, Doc had to go. So they did that. So ultimately, looks like there's a higher chance James will resign. And yeah, Doc got scapegoat. Unfortunately, yeah, he doesn't. I'm not saying he doesn't take any blame, but like I said, they were up 3-2. The formula was working. Your stars got to show up and close out games in Game 7. Both of their stars just were no shows. So it is what it is. I feel for Doc. I do personally. He is the champion. It's hard to win a champion in this championship in this league. But I do hope he gets another job if he's able to, for sure. A lot of people might say you were
Yeah.
saying, is it? But
I
I
think
hope
it
he
might
gets
be
another
it, bro.
job. I do hope he gets another job.
I
I
hope
do
so,
think
but
I
it's
think he'll
tough.
get interviewed. Let's see what happens though. So now talking about this, in your opinion, we've been talking about the Sixers and the trade that they made, with the Ben and James and the big trade that happened at the time. Is the Sixers championship window closed? Can they still win a championship? James Harden resigns, assuming, with the duo of Harden and Joel, maybe in the potential next 4 years?
I'm gonna say yes. I mean, obviously they have the potential to do so, but from what I've seen, I don't know. Whether it's injuries or it's just straight up choking like this, it seems like whenever they have an opportunity, something has to go wrong, similar to the Clippers. So I'm gonna say this: if everything goes right, yes, which means no injuries, no choking, they have a chance. But if things go how they gone in the past, which is injuries and choking potentially, they have no chance. So that's my answer. It depends. It really depends. Everything has to go perfect for them to win, literally. So,
Mhm.
and I find that highly unlikely. So, just take from that what you will.
So my answer to this, I'm not gonna say it's closed yet. If James Harden resigns, with their new coach, we already know it's Mike D'Antoni. If they resign, if he resigns, and they have those pieces and they keep building, I think they have a chance to be contenders. But bottom line is another second round exit, another after that, like there might be massive changes. So the pressure just continues to rise, but I wouldn't say the window's closed. I'm not going to shut it down yet. They definitely had a chance. They were one game away from getting to the conference finals, very close. So it's definitely not close, but obviously depends on the stars. They got to show up in the big moments and they got to show up in closeout games. So yeah, I don't think it's closed. I do think they can win a championship with Harden and Joel, but you're right. Things go wrong when it comes to injuries and choking. But it's looking more and more tough because you look at teams like Boston and a lot of teams in the East, they're coming. Boston right now is arguably the best team in the East. You had Milwaukee; they had a down year, obviously a stunning year as the number one seed. Don't you think they'll get better? They have a lot of other teams out there, so um, it's not gonna get easier. It felt like this was their chance potentially. If they got there with the number one seed being out, it felt like an opportunity, and they blew it. Simple as that. So moving on to the West, the six-seeded Warriors versus the seven-seeded Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers won the series 4-2. So what are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I did pick the Warriors, and that pick makes sense. But what I want to happen, unfortunately, was not what happened. I mean, the Warriors took the series. Curry, he played great, did what he could, but the rest of the team didn't follow suit. I mean, he averaged 26 for the series, 7.5 assists, 5 rebounds, and he did what he could. But when you have a player like Klay Thompson, who had a nightmare series, playing horrible throughout the entire time, him and Jordan Poole both struggling. I mean, what can you expect? Honestly, was straight up embarrassing. Klay Thompson, maybe controversial, but right now I see him as a role player. 3 and D. He's not hitting threes. He's a step slow on defense right now too. So at this point, why is he on the court? As a coach, you got to make that decision, man. When he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, he's ice cold. And he was ice cold this entire series. Honestly, the Warriors, they have the talent, and I believe Klay Thompson will bounce back next season. So there is no slight to him. But I feel like this was embarrassing. Um, Obviously, it's two competitive teams, so it shouldn't really be like that much of a knock on them. I feel like they can bounce back again, like I said, next year. But to me, Curry showed up. The rest of the team nowhere to be found. Shout out Looney as well, but and Wiggins for some parts. But that's my take on it. I mean, obviously I'm disappointed, but congratulations to the Lakers. They advanced.
Yeah, obviously I picked the Warriors in 7 as well. I thought this would be a very thrilling series. But the Lakers, I think size with AD really probably had an impact on this series. For them ultimately winning this series, LeBron James had a great game 6 closeout. And the one thing I say, when LeBron James' team is up 3-1, he's undefeated. At that point, you already know the series is over. No team has ever forced a game 7 on him. Only game 6 is like 5 times. So it's a stat. I like statistics. So I'm bringing you a statistic. But this series, I was obviously a little surprised. I thought the Warriors were going to win this series, and if you're up 3-1, it feels like a team is dominating you. Game one, the Lakers won. Game two, the Warriors responded, so you thought it'd be a good series, and then game three, game four, wasn't able to win any road games. Game four, they had a shot. Then Lonnie Walker's, the depth of the Lakers, Lonnie Walker just went sensational. Game
Shout
five,
out
they
Lonnie's
protected
first
home
product.
court. Game six, the Lakers closed it out, blew them out. So Curry showed up in this series. Thompson, who had only played good in game two, I think 30 points, 8 threes. After that, did not play good in this series. Jordan Poole was absolutely terrible in this series, except for maybe one game, I think. But he's absolutely terrible in this series. Curry showed up, nobody else didn't. The Lakers dominated interior. Kevon Looney also showed up, and Wiggins too, like you said, to some degree. First of all, I got to give good man props to Wiggins. He missed 2.5 months. I don't know. He just came out here
Yeah.
balling in the playoffs. He really did his thing. But the others did not step up. Clay did not show up. Jordan Poole did not show up. Draymond Green was okay. But Looney, always underrated, always does his job. But the Lakers just dominate. Their depth, their overall team, just everybody's pitched in, and AD just played as one of the best players in the series. And so Curry just didn't have any help, but it's a tough series for them. But shout out to the Lakers, they're advancing. I've been hearing a lot of discussions on this. I just want to know what your thoughts on this. Is the Warriors dynasty over?
I'm gonna say no. They still got all the pieces there. They even got some young talent coming up. I'm not going to discredit this team. They have the championship pedigree. The core is still intact. So while that's there, I can't say it's over. That'd be disrespectful to them what they accomplished. They even won recently, so I can't say that it's over. I'm gonna just say that yeah, I feel like it's not like no. If you say it's over, like that's a really like reactionary take, in my
Well,
opinion.
somebody named Nick Wright said
I
that
mean, we know what he
apparently.
does, man.
Yeah, we know what he said about Joker. He didn't look pretty good. He said that after they traded for Wiggins, they would never. The Warriors were done, and so we've seen how that aged. So but all I'll say is, of course, the dynasty is not over. They said it in 2019. A lot of people that it was over. They won a championship just last season, and now they're gonna say it again. Don't doubt them. That's all I'm gonna say. They got championship pedigree. Steph,
Yeah.
Clay, and Draymond. The core is still there. Steve Kerr is still there. They still got the young depth there. Jordan Poole, everybody's going to improve. They'll make some changes this offseason. Um, I'm never going to count them out. Their championship win was intact. And it's like people forgetting. They won a championship last year, acting like they won it like 10 years ago. They're still here. Let's move on to the next series, the final second round matchup that we're going to talk about. The first seeded Denver Nuggets versus the fourth seeded Phoenix Suns. The Denver Nuggets won the series 4-2. I predicted it right on the dot, by the way. So what are your thoughts? I
I
want to hear
mean,
this. This is what I've been waiting for.
well,
Easy
I
money, Slim Reaper, easy money.
I'll just say this, man. Kevin Durant, if I'm being honest, horrendous performance, man. There's nothing I can say to sugarcoat this. I can't, like I said with Harden, I'm done defending these players, bro. At some point, You have to wake up and realize that what these people doing, like what they're doing, is undefensible at some point, bro. He had a disgusting performance. I rank him as the number one player in the NBA.
Hmm.
That was my ranking.
And last season,
That
well,
was
I
my
had him ranked
ranking.
number one too, but last season, in a sense, you might have gave him a bit of a pass with all the stuff that was going on
That
that
was
year.
my ranking.
Hmm.
Inefficient from the field in total. Free throws saved his numbers. As you
Hmm.
said, free throws saved his numbers.
Interesting.
Shot 22% from three.
Hmm.
And what did he do in the elimination game 6? Let me read off his stats. 23 points, 4 turnovers, 0 for
Oh,
0 from 3.
he turned the ball over way too much in this series.
0 for 0 from 3. And 8 for 19 from the field. I mean, what can you say? What can you say? He was a shell of himself this entire series. And I want to know, what was the cause? I don't know if you're deferring to Booker, and I'll get to Booker in a second. But you, KD, I had you at the best player in the world. Might still have you. The list isn't out yet. But this disgusting
This ain't out
performance.
yet.
I have nothing to say, bro. Horrible. Him and Harden, disgusting postseason. Like, what can you say? And Booker. I mean, Booker played great for the majority of the series. But when it came down to it, game 6, elimination game, what'd he do? 12 points. Did have 8 assists. 4 for 13 from the field.
Acting
33%
tough
from
when they
three.
up.
Like Luca said, man, that saying will live on forever. The Suns are cooked. CP3 out. Ayton out for the elimination game
Ayan
with
got
a
to get
rib
traded.
contusion. Wiggins played with a broken rib. Obviously, I'm not saying that, I don't know the extent to his pain, but come on now. Your season's on the line.
Hmm.
And I can't blame CP3 he was out, you know? Obviously, I joke around and say CBD could have changed the series. We don't know. But what we do know is the players that did play, when it came down to it, were no shows. Kevin Durant. I have nothing to say, man. And Jokic, we know what he did. Generational talent, literally. Ended the series with 34.5 points,
Hmm.
10.3 assists,
Hmm.
13.2 rebounds.
Third player to average a triple double in a
Almost
playoff
shooting
series.
60% from the field and 44% from three. I mean, what did those stats tell you? He cooked Ayton. He cooked whoever was on him. He was literally unguardable, the best player on the court in every game. I
Best
mean,
player in the series.
facts. I mean, that's all I can say
Third
right
player,
now.
just again, my bad. Third player to average triple double in a playoff series. LeBron, Russ, now him. Interesting
That's
to
all I can
keep
say
in
right now.
mind.
KD, shocking performance. I mean, nothing I can say,
He
bro.
wasn't
Got
bad. He wasn't
outplayed.
good last postseason either. He got swept.
I agree, man. I was delusional back then. Now I'm seeing the light, man. Embarrassing. Both of
Hmm.
these players, Harden, him including, very tough, man. I've nothing to say anymore. I'm
Joe
I'm
Tsai
done. I'm done.
Joe Tsai's
No
having a
comment.
field.
No comment.
The grass is not always greener on the other side.
I'm weak.
I picked Denver to win the series in 6 after I saw the Suns play against the Clippers. Obviously, the Clippers were depleted and whatnot. Suns took, they did their job. They still won the series. After I saw the way they played against Clippers, I just felt like the way Denver was playing, they just didn't stand a chance. They did it 2-2. It felt competitive. Then after the game 5, game 6, they got absolutely waxed. But if you, like I said, obviously you look at, I think the main thing that we're really going to look at is Kevin Durant, right? He had 2 games of, I think, 36 and 39, obviously. I mean, let's go through all the games. So game 1, obviously, 29 points, lost, but 7 turnovers, way too much. 12 for 19, efficient. Game 2, lost, 10 for 27. I mean, that's a lot of a shot attempt. 24 points on 27 shots. I mean, that's just terrible. Uh, Game 3, he had 39 points on 31 shots. Um, like you said, free throws in those games were evident. And he draws fouls. He's good at getting to the free throw line. Game 4, 36 points, 11 for 19 from the field, efficient. Game 5, this is 26 points, 5 turnovers, 24 shots. And then game 6, terrible, 8 for 19, 4 turnovers. Too many turnovers in this series, by the way, for KD. He was terrible, in this towards the end of the series. But bottom line, what you say about this is, Kevin Durant, you know, he just didn't show up in a closeout game. This is a guy again, me personally, I had ranked as my number one player, but I've said a lot of things that Josh probably didn't agree with about what I said about Kevin Durant. But at this point, I think it's coming to truth. Kevin Durant, fortunately, Josh is gonna be upset that I'm bringing this up. Since he's left Steph Curry, he hasn't had really any deep playoff runs. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if the stats are
It's
wrong.
true.
The only year that I thought he had a shot, and again, I never hold it against him because I believe he would have won a championship in Brooklyn had he been healthy. But we always talk about what ifs. Every year is a what if with every situation. Um, but he was phenomenal that year. I mean, if then after that, the next two postseason, the Boston one, terrible. And I thought I'd give him a pass. I thought it was fair. Then this season, I mean, I know he's on a new team, and I remember I told you, doesn't chemistry matter? You said it didn't matter. You said it didn't matter. That they gonna
Oh
win it all.
man,
It didn't matter.
I did say that,
Give me.
man.
It's like
Tough.
Joshua wrote a script. Suns and Warriors, Suns and Philly, script, script,
I
script.
did write that script,
That was
man.
not approved
Too
by
good to
Adam
be true,
Silver.
man. Yeah, Adam Silver denied
Did
that
not
request,
approve
man.
that.
Adam Silver
But
denied that one, bro.
but uh he just didn't play good. Devin Booker, I thought was phenomenal this whole postseason. The numbers were crazy, and I think we can agree that a lot of, obviously due to his greatness as well. But Kevin Durant draw a lot of doubles. It's clear he's that talented. So Devin Booker took advantage of it. But yeah, closeout game, he was no good last season. In closeout game was no good, so he's struggled in these closeout games. But looking at Nikola Jokic, there's nothing to say. Best player in the series. Denver's more deeper, more talented, elite coaching, all of that stuff. Bottom line is, unfortunately, Kevin Durant has not won on any level since he's left Golden State. Um, we talk about him being the best player in the world. Last season I said, I wouldn't put him as number one. Then I still kept him. I mean, at this point, I'm going to wait till the playoffs is over yet to make my official prediction. But no, Nikola Jokic is really making a real strong case to being the best player in the world. Just to let you know, because now we know he's the best
True.
center in the world because it's not Embiid. That's already done. But Kevin Durant was disappointing. Back-to-back years of playing terrible in the playoffs. Back-to-back years of getting bounced out early. With a franchise that gave up a lot, to acquire him. Just to lose one game before, same place. So all you can say is Denver was better. I knew they were better, and the Suns are going home. And I guess what the Suns fans say, Suns in four. Keep dreaming.
It's tough, man.
So what are your reactions to Monty getting fired? And was the Suns season a failure?
I mean, I guess with Monty being fired, I'll address that first. Um, I feel like that was a very reactionary thing done by the owner. I mean, you can't blame Monty because the Suns team decided to trade their entire depth for Kevin Durant. You can't blame Monty because CP3 got hurt. You can't blame Monty because Aiton was a no-show and essentially put in no effort from what I've seen. And it's just tough because with his track record, I think he'll get picked up fairly quickly. He did bring the team to the finals, back to back second round. Yes, there were exits and pretty embarrassing exits at that, but I feel like his ability was there. And maybe this new owner might want to, stamp his own impression of the team. Maybe him firing the coach is just him trying to get in, shake things up. But I feel like it's pretty, it was a rash thing to do. I don't agree with it. I mean, obviously, there's some things that this team has to work on, but you can't really blame everything on Monty. I feel like this was kind of a scapegoat thing, and I just don't get it, man. So, what do you think about it?
Well, for me, I think, Monty, I thought got scapegoat. I didn't really see it coming. I thought he did a phenomenal job, changed the culture in Phoenix. But bottom line is he had two, I think, closeout games that could have, got them to the, one of them to force a game seven, one of them to get them to the conference finals. And their two were huge blowouts in their building. One was from Dallas, who literally were up like 40 something points, and Denver, same thing. He had two big blowouts under his coaching thing. So it felt like maybe his potential to get fired, but I didn't really think that he could get fired. I knew Doc could have got fired. I knew Budenholzer was a potential, but I didn't know Monty could have got fired. I thought he did a phenomenal job. For him to get fired, I think was just the organization. I don't know, deciding to try something new. Because when you fire somebody, you got to find somebody better. It's gonna be hard to replace a caliber of Monty
I
Williams. Because in
agree.
my opinion, he's gonna get another job somewhere. The bottom line
Easily.
is Phoenix is in shambles right now. They're cooked. They don't know what they're doing right now. They're in shambles. And that was a bad move, I think, by the Phoenix Suns. But Kevin Durant had 4 coaches in 1 year. That's tough. Is the Suns
Wait,
season a failure?
wait, you said
100%
one
is a
year?
failure.